Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Yellowjackets Season 1, Episode 10, the huge Season 1 finale. I think it is fair to say that we have gone down a tremendous rabbit hole with this show over the past week or so, where we're basically now doing all of those gifs of people just like pointing at all the different things on the cork boards and being like, this connects here. What a crazy show.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who has suggested this show to us. We actually just binge watched the whole thing in like
Yeah.
a couple of days. We had been getting requests for it throughout the season, and man, I'm really glad you guys suggested this show to us. It is fantastic. First seasons of shows are typically pretty tough, but there's been a lot of really good first seasons of shows within the past year. This and Raising Kanan,
Yeah.
Squid Game, though there's a lot of like 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
This show is up there. It is 10 out of 10. I loved it. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, there's a ton of spoilers ahead, so
Tons and
tons.
theories. I got theories for you.
I've got some theories that are probably completely absurd, but you know what? That is what we are here for. We hope you guys are here for it, and we hope that you also hit that subscribe button because this is far from the end of our Yellowjackets coverage if like our enthusiasm at the moment isn't giving that away already.
And make sure you guys leave your theories in the comments as well. Like, we're here to share ours and to hear yours. Okay, so where should we really start with this? Because there is a lot.
Okay, well, I know we're going to get into a lot of really, really crazy stuff. So before we get into some of the craziest stuff, I think let's just talk about something that was surprisingly sort of simple, and that is the death of Jackie. And I feel like amidst all of the insanity and all the different things that are going on, having her die in this episode and having her die in the way that it happened, there was no real mystery here. There was nothing even that complicated. It was just heartbreaking. Like, I felt so just unbelievably sad by this.
Oh, this show squeezed my heart with that. I mean, as soon as she was outside trying to light that fire and like you could see her breath, I was like, oh, it is cold. Like that little fire she has going wasn't gonna keep her warm. And
No.
I was kind of surprised that Coach wasn't like, get back in the house. I know that he's tried to stop people from doing stuff before. They're kind of like, who are you to say anything? But he is still the adult in the room. Like, really, there should have been more people that were gonna tell her, like, you can't be outside. It is too cold. Even if it hadn't snowed, it's too cold.
All right, you brought up Coach Ben. It's we're having the Coach Ben conversation now. Number one, how are you still alive? I was a
Get
thousand.
out. I'm done with Coach Ben. I'm sorry.
I was sure Coach Ben was eating it in this finale, so I'm number one shocked that he is still alive. Number two, like I know you lost a part of your leg in the accident here, Coach Ben, and I know that had to be deeply traumatizing, but you have also lost like whatever bit of like pull or leadership or charisma you once had. Now you're just sort of being like just that dude everyone ignores and everybody's just like, shut up, Coach Ben. And I'm gonna say it, shut up, Coach Ben. You don't have anything good to say at this point, clearly.
And that was clearly the way that Jackie was feeling as well. I mean, she's, team leader. She's very popular. Everybody does like her. They did respect her, listen to her. And then when everything really unfolded with Shauna, where it was like, hey, I know you're pregnant. I also know that it's Jeff. I also know that you guys did this behind my back. That it like really quickly turned back on Jackie, where everybody was just feeling it. Where they were just kind of like, we are tired of all living under your perfect shadow. We're really over it. Like, it's enough. And kicking her out of the cabin, like even Jackie being like, get out, Shauna. It's just kind of like, who are you to say that? I'm really glad that Shauna, even though it ended the way it did, stood up for herself and was like, no, you get out. Like, you don't choose for me to do that. At the same time, it's like, this is a big cabin. There's an
Yeah.
upstairs and downstairs. How about just, I'm going to go upstairs and you're going to be downstairs?
I think even just the pettiness of this all felt so in line with, I think, how a lot of young people sort of act, where it's like, okay, then I'm gonna end up leaving, and then she's too prideful to come back in and sort of be like, okay, you know what, let's work this out. And then Shauna and everybody else in the cabin are too prideful to go out there. And then we, of
Yeah,
course,
it's also tough being, I mean, I remember what it was like for me being a teenage girl. It is it's difficult in those types of situations.
okay, now we have to get to the other part of this, and that is the dream that totally, this dream totally did fake me out for at least like 10 seconds until we got to the point where like all of
They're
the
all like, "We all love you,
I was like,
Daddy." I'm
all
like,
right,
"What is happening here?"
all right, I know what's going on now, but this dream was weird and trippy, especially when we get to like this is where we start to introduce the weirdness of the show. We have the shadowy figure in the midst of all of this.
Yeah, and I mean, we all don't know exactly who he is, but there's a lot of theories that this is the man who died in the cabin, and that makes the most sense.
Yeah. Okay, now let's get into how Jackie also got herself into this position where Lottie, you have managed to have bless everyone with your bear here, and
Oh man, that scene was so cool. I mean, it's just Lottie is one of my favorite characters. She, has really developed through this. And it's hard to know, is she really seeing these visions, feeling these visions? We know that she was on medication. We know that, we saw her as very, very young, sort of have this premonition of a car accident that was coming, and her parents didn't know what to do, and they put her on this medication. I feel, and maybe it's just like, the dreamer in
yeah.
me, that she just can sort of predict things and see things. That moment with that bear that walked up and basically bowed down to her before she decided, of course, to kill the bear and feed everybody. I was just like, this is just a really powerful, powerful scene.
It was really, really powerful, and I do think there's a spirituality about Lottie and about certain
Yes.
elements of the show. I mean, when we start to get into kind of the supernatural nature of things, this is where I know this may be a surprise to some people. This is where I bring in the Scooby Doo analogy, where every episode of Scooby Doo, you always think, oh, there's a real ghost out there, and it turns out to just be a dude in the mask. Like, I think there is a dude in the mask explanation for a lot of the crazier stuff that eventually we will come to know, but that's just me. Maybe I'm just cynical. I don't know.
I really hope not, because we have seen sort of a lot of that, to draw a comparison over to Lost, that
Mhm.
that show sort of had that same sort of feeling of like, oh, there is sort of this spirituality, the man in white, the man in black, good, evil, what's going on, are they sort of in this purgatory? What is happening? And then it turns out that's like, it's Ben, there's all these other things where it's like, it's a real person
Yeah.
behind everything. I like that this show is, diving into those sort of things. We saw Lottie at the end with the bear heart, putting it out for sort of an offering. We saw Misty by her side, which makes sense in general. She's
Yeah.
going to be beside whoever is going to pay her attention.
Yeah.
But to me, the most important thing is seeing Van by her side. And this is where we're going to get into some theories.
All right.
I think that Van is alive in the future. We've seen her in season 1 escape death 3 times. 3 times. She didn't die in the plane crash. She also didn't die when they left her with the fire that could have killed her as well. She also didn't die
Yeah.
when she was attacked by the wolves, and then we'll even throw in that she could have been burned alive by her friends. Okay, she has escaped death so many times that there just feels like she's gonna get out of this alive. How can she not? I mean, 9 lives, she feels like she's used up quite a few of them. But now that we've kind of seen her talking in this episode, she's talking to Ty and just kind of like, listen, like, when all that stuff happened with the wolf, I was in this weird space where I wasn't really dead, but I wasn't really alive, and I saw something. I know it's hard when she's on that side to have the people who didn't see or don't believe or are skeptics, where Ty's kind of like, oh, you were probably just in shock. I like that Van was like, no, I saw what I saw. I know what I saw, and that's what I saw, sort of thing, where she's not necessarily moving away from Ty. We may see that, but she is then moving towards Lottie, who then killed this bear, fed them.
Yeah.
Even when she's like, we should say some sort of a thanks for this. Lottie, you want to take it away? I was like, oh, here we go. I think that Van is going to sort of be Lottie's right-hand woman.
Okay, the thing with Lottie is I think no matter if she has clairvoyance or supernatural abilities or anything else, I think she's clearly found a calling for herself in this wilderness. I think there's something about being out there that speaks a lot to her, and I think it's allowing her to sort of manifest these things about her that have always been there. And I think because everyone is in such a desperate state, I think they're more inclined to sort of side with that because everybody wants something, I think, to believe in this world. And when you're kind of stripped down, I think it's much easier for people like Van to sort of buy into all this. And we've heard a lot, I'm sure everybody has heard something about this for people who have a near-death experience, that they sort of see something. So I'm not surprised by any of this with Van, who, okay, here we go, who I'm about to proclaim Antler Queen Van. I am saying it right now. Okay, here's the thing with a lot of this. Lottie is so obviously the Antler Queen after the first season.
I mean, we even saw with the, Doomsday type episode where they were all like the doom coming. They were all putting on, flowers and headdresses and stuff like that. When they attacked Travis, we actually saw Lottie put on the Antler Queen's headdress, which was obviously made for Doomcoming.
I'm starting to think a little bit maybe that at some point, I know this is going to be crazy given that we saw everybody with the, the headdresses and everything else at the start of the series, but maybe Lottie just gets too crazy for some of this sort of stuff, or maybe she's off somewhere sort of doing some ritual in the woods and she's either passed the torch to Van has willingly sort of taken it on, or Van's a conduit for her. I just feel like this show loves its crazy twist, and I don't buy after one season it's already crystal clear who the Antler Queen is when that was so hyped up at the start of this. And I think if it's Van, I'm way more intrigued with how that comes about.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about who this is, because know we've done as much research as is out there right now, which is we saw that beginning scene in the very first episode where there are 7 people, 6 plus the Antler Queen at the very beginning of this whole thing.
Yes.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that it is only the people who are alive. It is possible that everyone gets kind of split up here, because there are people like a Travis who we know is alive in the future, and Natalie who we know is alive in the future. It is possible after what we saw last week that there are people that are like, I'm not participating in this.
Yes.
Like, I'm absolutely not participating. You go your way, we'll go our way. But if not, and it does happen to be, the 7 people who would be alive, we're looking at Shauna, we're looking at Ty, we're looking at Natalie, Misty, Lottie, and Travis. Travis was also alive in the future.
I think there's a good chance a number of them were
with one
involved.
Person missing, which would probably be Van at that point.
Yeah, I feel like in my heart, at least one of these people who's alive in sort of the present day of this show was not participating in all of this, just because I think it's more interesting for the show. And if there's a plan for there to be many more seasons, which it seems like there is, to have like a couple of different factions here working, and maybe they're battling it out.
And one of the things that I was thinking about was that Travis wouldn't have been involved. This is my theory of why he ended up getting killed. And I know that they're saying that he took his own life and whatever, but we've seen the picture where it was like, oh, there was candles and it's in this shape, and obviously there's something more here. And I think that he didn't participate, and what's happening is this group that we saw at the end, we saw that Natalie was starting to believe that he had taken his own life. She was getting ready to take her own life. Then, they bust in the door and it's like a bunch of, it feels like cult members that are wearing the symbol, that are taking her away. And I think that Natalie probably wasn't as involved, that she may have been involved at the beginning and was like, no, I can't. Maybe she just straight up was like, no, me and Travis are going to go somewhere else. And that's why their bond is what it is. And now the cult is coming together to get rid of the people that are non-believers.
That just makes an unbelievable amount of sense because there's so many times in this, both this finale and like the episodes leading up to it, where Natalie and Travis were just trying to like piece out from everybody else and what everything else was happening.
Yeah.
Which, another question here, Yellowjackets. Why do you guys not care about Javi? Why do these people not care
Oh,
about
no.
Javi? Javi's just like off somewhere.
Yeah, he's off somewhere. Only his brother's looking for him, and that's it. Let's just like, yeah, no, come on.
That's one of the things that this show's doing so many good things, but I don't really understand the whole Javi thing at this very moment.
No, I mean, obviously the group is not united enough to care about people. They just let Jackie freeze outside, and,
Yeah.
you know, that's partially their fault. It's obviously also Jackie's choice. They could have come to get her. She could have gone inside. You know, everybody's got a little bit of, you know, feeling guilt and blame on their shoulders, but Javi, he's
Yeah.
just gone since the night before, and like nobody cares to even look for him. Like, it's real strange, but you know, here we are.
Speaking of things that are real strange,
Lottie's alive in the future.
that is okay.
So we learned that Lottie closed down Travis's account. That is seemingly what Natalie has learned. And it's just sort of, well, she hasn't learned it. It was left on her machine. But, you know, if she gets to her machine, she's going to learn that Lottie is involved. But maybe these people taking her, she's going to learn it anyways.
This is the big part of this that I'm still kind of having a hard time understanding, is that we've seen this especially from Shauna so much that she doesn't want to talk to reporters. She wants to kind of have certain things in the past, even Thaisa and her political run, trying to keep certain things in the past. Like, if you people know that Lottie is out there, you have some suspicions. Like, there's not really a lot of information about how much certain people know as of yet, but can you really ever feel that comfortable in this world knowing that you have Lottie, someone who is ritualistic, someone who is incredibly dangerous, still out there in the world? Like, I would not be running for office. I would be so far off the grid that no one could ever find me.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume, but I could be wrong, that they were all rescued together. They may not have been, but it seems like they all made a pledge together to just not talk about it and not connect with each other. This is really kind of the first time everybody is. But since you brought up Ty, we gotta talk about that. That altar that her wife found in their basement crawl space. So we know that Ty has been the woman outside her son's window. We saw her, you know, eating dirt and eating herself, like she bit herself, like she's really been struggling with what happened there. She won't eat meat. She is completely vegan now. Like, she is just doing whatever she can to stop all of this, but the dog goes missing. Now we've seen this altar where there's a heart on it. I'm going to assume that it's the dog's. We see her dog's head there, the toy from her son, like the candles. It's giving me either vibes that she has either privately continued on these sort of out of body experiences, because we saw that she's had it on the show.
Yeah.
Now it seems that it's continuing on at her home, and that's what's happening. But is it possible that she is part of all of this that's going on with the present day cult and the present day Lottie? Because we know that she's had Jessica checking into everybody.
Yeah. I think it is a fair assumption to think that she's either in cahoots with Lottie or she understands what's going on, because to me, this is the only way you can kind of get around the concern that I had, where if I'm Thaisa, I am not running for state senate thinking that Lottie is coming out there to destroy me at any given moment. If I know that I'm working with her, or if I trust her on some level, or that I'm still keeping on these rituals, maybe I'm a little bit more comfortable. I mean, I think the biggest assumption that I'm willing to make right now is, out of some of the survivors we've actively spent a lot of time with, we haven't seen Shauna have some sort of ritualistic shrine like this. I mean, we haven't seen that with Natalie either, unless there's more we're going to discover there, and I certainly don't think so with Natalie. Thaisa had to be higher ranking in this organization than them.
It feels like she was, and that as much as I think she tried to, like, even during the past where she was, participating in this, I think she was having this sort of push and pull with it where she didn't want to be participating, but at the same time, there was something in her that
Yeah.
did want to participate. And that's why we would, see her out in the woods, sort of eating dirt or eating herself outside of this window. That it's feels like it's a bit of a sort of out of body experience for her, which is, interesting because we saw that conversation with Van where Van was kind of like, I had this out of body experience. Yeah. And Ty was like, nah, you were just in shock. Don't worry. And we've now seen her in the present and in the past having exactly this.
I think one of the things this show does a really good job of showing us is that everybody handles madness in their own way, and it's not like a straight line across the board, because we're seeing kind of how Ty is trying to cope with this or try to figure out how to balance these parts of her lives. And then you juxtapose that with Misty, who it seems like Misty was always very much out there even before they arrived in the wilderness, and it feels like she's the person that we see of her in the present. I think even including everything that's going on with Jessica, I still feel like it's more in line with exactly who she was in the past when we saw her there.
She is incredibly manipulative and is willing to hurt people to have acceptance. And it's just she's a fascinating character, but I've had a really hard time feeling sympathy for her, feeling empathy for her, because she's taking a road where she's not just being manipulative. She's like doing things to people's health, trying to make people sicker or, keep people in a state that they can't leave. Like, it's really, really dark. And I know that there are people out there that have empathy for her. And I feel bad that she's a person who feels like she needs to go to these lengths to have any sort of friendship or relationship or anything like that. But you cannot do this stuff to people. You can't keep people chained up. You can't give the coach shrooms and be like, hey, those were only meant for Ben, so it's okay, guys.
That's
everybody
so
forgive me. I'm just like, what is happening here? Like, you can't do this. And now she has a job that allows her to choose to not give morphine to patients and hurt them if they don't do what she says. Like, she's a tough character to get behind. Fascinating and wonderfully acted, but tough to get behind.
I have zero relatability with Misty whatsoever. I love watching her. All of it was weird with her in this episode, including her like showing up to the funeral and acting like, she's buddy, and of course she's got an ulterior motive, but everything she does, there's an ulterior motive, and how she's able to sort of dip in and out of this stuff is just so terrifying to me.
Yeah, because we saw the four women get together to deal with the Adam situation that, Shauna had, where it seemed like in the past she was the person who was doing a lot of the, we'll call it dissecting of the meat.
Yes.
I can't get into it calling them people. So it's bad. The whole thing is, woo! Okay, so that was really a rough scene to watch where she is, cutting him apart and putting him in pieces. And then we've got Misty, who is like, okay, let me deal with this part of it. And she has somehow been able to put the head and the hands inside the casket to go into the crematorium. I was kind of like, how did you manage that? I mean, this isn't like funeral service back in the 50s where it was like, oh, you could just do whatever and cremate whoever, whatever. Like, there's like procedures here. You can't just go into a funeral home and do that.
I don't know how she pulled that off.
She's got to have a friend or something. I know she mentioned that she's friends with so-and-so in the morgue, but I mean, that's not the funeral home.
I don't know what to make of Adam in general. Like, I've seen a number of theories out there suggesting, okay, maybe he's connected to what happened in this way or that way or the other way. But is it also just possible that Adam was just the guy who, met Shauna and got very fascinated by her story and read up by it and has some darkness of his own? I don't think we can rule that out completely. Not everything has to be connected to it.
No, not everything does. I did find it kind of strange that it's like he's been missing for a very short time and he's all over the news. artist is missing. I was just like, okay, I don't know that it would go quite that way, but who
No.
knows?
Yeah, especially since he's so kind of offbeat. I didn't think he would, no offense to Adam, I just didn't think he would have that many friends, but
So we also have to talk about the whole thing with Jessica. So we saw that Misty, they went to their high school reunion.
uh
Misty started, feeling herself a bit where she's like, I'm finally part of this. I am part of the cool kids. And, they're honoring us up on the screen. So when she came back, I mean, this show got me on that.
yeah.
I legit thought because Misty's whole goal is to feel like she's part of something and she wants those accolades and to feel like
Yeah.
she's important and spotlight on her, that she really was letting Jessica go. I was like, this seems like a little bit out of character because she doesn't let anybody go, but that maybe she's getting too caught up in her own hype.
I thought she was letting her go. Like I did not legit see that part of it coming. I mean, it does make sense in retrospect, but watching the episode, no. I didn't see it coming, and I just gotta say in general, give me all of the high school. I want another hour of high school reunion material. I loved all of this. I love Shauna telling people off.
I loved Shauna telling Randy off. He is just
No.
a tool bag.
I loved the woman who was like, I thought I was gonna be on the plane, and she's like acting
Oh
like
my
she's one of the
God.
survivors. Just like all of that was so ridiculous and so funny. It's like I loved all of that just for the nonsense of this reunion.
I loved the music. I grew up in the same time that these girls would have grown up. So all of the music that was going on, I heard Ace of
Yeah.
Base. I mean, it's giving me the feels. I'm telling you that.
Oh my god. We have so much to think about between now and season 2 because there's still ambiguity on the Antler Queen. There's still ambiguity on Adam. We don't know how we all got connected to the period of time when they're all really like that anyway.
I love the idea that Lottie is alive in the present. I mean, like, what does that look like? Is she sort of the leader of this cult that she, if she was the Antler Queen, I would assume that if she came back to present life, that's not something that's that easy to give up.
No.
To have people sort of following her and looking towards her. I mean, even if she's a person that's not, really insecure, like feeling like just that acceptance that you're the one. I mean, already we got Van, we got Misty by her side, bowing down with her. I don't know, man. I'm saying if Van is also alive, I think she is part of the cult. I think she found something with that.
I think there's like some weirdo like church or something out there that she's brought in new people and she's got a pluck.
I can't have Van be gone. I love that
I
actress
just-
so much from Santa
I was about
Clarita
to say,
Diet. I
that's why.
just can't. She's so fantastic.
Yeah, I love Van. I love so many characters on this show. I'm so sad now that we've done this one video and now we have to wait forever for season 2.
Binge watching it was like the greatest time of my life, and then also like the worst because at the end of it I was like, oh no, I don't have any more episodes. It's the end. Oh my God.
We're gonna go and try to deal with our feelings now, but yeah, if you enjoyed this discussion, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you here next time.